sure what's going on here. View. Speaker is not expanding. Tell us when you're ready to go.
Ready, Maharaj.
Okay. I'll just get the view on properly here. There we go. Okay. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachari Shatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachari Shatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Sabhakta-vrinda I forgot to put tilak, so I don't have any tilak up there. If you can bring some down. Nitai Goranga Jaya Nitai Goranga Nitai Goranga Jaya Nitai Goranga Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Excuse me, you got a mirror? Mirror?
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava,
Kunja Bihari,
Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari,
Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja
Desh wants to come.
Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari.
Jaya
Might need a lesson from him. Gopi Jana Ballabha, Givaradhari. Gopi Jana Ballabha, Givaradhari. Gopi Jana Ballabha, Givaradhari. Gopi Jana Ballabha, Givaradhari. Yasodanandana, Raja Janaranjana, Yasodanandana, Raja Janaranjana, Yamunatira Vanachari, Yamunatira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Ballabha, Givaradhari, Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yamunatira Vanachari, Yamunatira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Madhava Punjabi Hari
Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, Premanandi. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to Sri Guru. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. So welcome, everybody. We have some unusual members in our class this morning. Here they are. Say good morning. Yeah, he's been sitting attentively. He comes to every class. He started to chant. He doesn't quite chant 16 rounds yet. Here's his friend. He's also here today.
Bonjour, je suis un ours aventurier prêt à partir. Joue, chanter, rampe avec moi. Découvrir, former les couleurs. Je m'amuse, je suis joueur. Fais comme moi, dis-moi 1, 2, 3. Viens, dis-moi.
There you go. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we're resorting to anything we can here to keep going at New Mayapur. Head of the kitchen, head pujari. You have plenty of opportunities here. Hare Krishna. So welcome everybody to this morning. I guess, well, today is the disappearance day of Ishvara Puri. I forgot that. I don't know where you are, but here in France, it's the disappearance day of His Divine Grace Ishvara Puri, the spiritual master, official spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Diksha Guru of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, we all know that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the original Guru, and through others, he engages others in devotional service, and he teaches lessons, different relationships there. So Ishvara Puri has this relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to, you could say, ignite the flame of the Sankirtan movement, as you probably know. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spent time with Ishvara Puri in East Bengal, when he went to East Bengal. And then when Ishvara Puri came to Mayapur, Ishvara Puri went to the house of Jagannath Mishra Sachimata, and there Lord Chaitanya again got the association, or Ishvara Puri got the association with Lord Chaitanya. So then when Lord Chaitanya decided the time was right to ignite the Sankirtan flame, and he went, at that time Ishwarapuri was in Gaya, so he went to Gaya, and there he took shelter of Ishwarapuri in the form of taking Diksha initiation from him, accepted him as a spiritual master. Ishwarapuri was a very close disciple of Madhavendra Puri. You probably know Ishwarapuri. He was chosen by Madhavendra Puri basically as his, let's say, wasn't necessary in the same way that we do now, but basically because of his service to Madhavendra Puri, his menial service. Ishwara Puri was serving his guru very menially, cleaning up his stools and everything in his old age and serving him with complete surrender. So Madhavendra Puri blessed Ishwara Puri, and he became the next representative, next acharya in our line after Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was the seed of the tree of Prema Bhakti, Madhurya Prem, and Ishwara Puri, he continued that growth of that tree. Lord Chaitanya became the trunk. So the tree of Bhakti, and every other devotee, Nityananda Advaita, became the two main branches, and from there, all the other branches have developed. And what is the nourishment of these branches of the Bhakti tree, which continues, or allows it to continue to grow bigger and bigger and bigger with more and more fruits on the tree? Well, of course, it's the process of devotional bhakti, devotional service, specifically enunciated by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. As Lord Chaitanya received this mantra from Ishwara Puri at his initiation, Ishwara Puri basically just gave him the Maha Mantra. And this very famous verse, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevam, Kalona Stevana, Stevana, Stevaka Tirnita. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to chant the holy names, he considered, of course, this was the real purpose and the perfection of his visit to Gaya. He went there on the guise of performing Shraddha for his departed father. But the real reason was to receive the, let's say, connection with Ishwara Puri. Lord Chaitanya was just he thought he went mad. So he's just chanting in ecstasy. He went back to Ishwara Puri with his, admission, presentation of his feeling madness in chanting, and Ishwara Puri confirmed these were indeed symptoms of one who is chanting the holy name in pure love of God. That ecstatic symptoms automatically manifest in the personality of one who's chanting an ecstatic love of God. So from then on, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was considered to be a changed person, but all that happened is he just decided to manifest his external reason, his primary external reason for appearing in this world, to spread the Sankirtan movement. So there we go. So that's a little bit on Ishwara Puri, and there's probably a lot more. But I think we'll carry on with the Srimad Bhagavatam this morning. And I don't actually know, it's been quite a few weeks since we last had a Bhagavatam this session. I don't know if anyone remember. I can't even remember where we left off, to be honest. There's different classes every day. I can't keep a track of it. Does anyone know in the first canto, chapter 2, what was the last verse that we read last time? Can anyone remember? No. I think we were reading something around verse 8, 9. I'm not sure.
I think we did 8 last time, possibly.
I'm pretty sure we did 8. I remember doing 8. So 8 was the last one. So it's pretty much right. Text number 9 then today. If you want to, I don't want to put it on the screen, Rasika, if you can. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Just have a recap, and especially for those who may not have joined us for previous classes on the Bhagavatam, first canto. We're reading systematically through the second chapter. and we're on text number 9 today, but the first chapter deals with the setting the scene, we could say, for the manifestation of Srimad Bhagavatam through the lips of Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami is the son of Maharshi, of course, was killed by the Kusha weapon of Lord Balaram. And then the sages in Naimishranya requesting a solution to the problem, because Maharshi had been selected as their chairperson to oversee their yajna. Now they're without their leaders, so they requested Balaram. So Balaram then suggested that the son, Sutta, representing the father, would become the new head of the assembly. So Sutta Goswami was selected. Sutta Goswami had fortunately heard the Srimad Bhagavatam through Sukadeva Goswami, when Sukadeva Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. So Sutta Goswami, on the request of the sages, began to answer their questions, which were listed in the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Different questions they asked regarding to where religious principles are going, and so on. In this particular case, we're talking about, say, religious principles and so on. So Sutta Goswami in the second chapter, he's beginning to answer their various questions. And today, one of the directions, one of the answers is being given by Sutta Goswami. So we'll repeat this verse. We can go to the rest. Dharmasya yapavaryasya nartortayopakalpate nartasya dharma kantasya kamolabhaya smitaha. And we can go through the synonyms. Dharmasya, occupational engagement, he, certainly. Apavagyasya, ultimate liberation. Na, not. Artaha, end. Artaya, for material gain. Upakalpate is meant for. No, neither. Artasya, of material gain. Dharma, eka antasya, for one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service. Kamaha, sense gratification. Labhaya, attainment of. He, exactly, smitaha, is described by the great sages. And we'll read the translation. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. This is a statement of Sutta Goswami, one of many similar statements in this chapter to establish the purpose of human life and how one can attain perfection in this human form of life. It's not a question of rejecting the material energy or rejecting one's conditional situation or one's abilities, but it's a matter of learning how to properly relate with them, how to relate with their body, how to relate with their mind, how to relate with their family and world around us. It's not to learn to see things in relationship, the relationship with the Supreme Person, to help us to awaken our relationship with Krishna. We have to learn to relate with the Lord in his other forms in this world. This is the process. So one of the major aspects in this regard is the performance of one's occupational duty in this material world, whatever that may be, and understanding what the point of that is. It's not just to enjoy or to make a comfortable position in this world. It's actually to facilitate our spiritual progress. And an aspect of that is mentioned here, All occupation it gave is meant for ultimate liberation does not mean Brahman realization. That's only partial liberation. Merging into the Brahman Jyoti is partial. Ultimate liberation is to be reconnected with Krishna in our eternal loving relationship. That's ultimate liberation, because from that situation, one will never again come under illusion. But even if one attains to the Brahmajyoti, the Brahman realization, there is every risk one may fall down again into this world. And even if one doesn't fall down, it's not ultimate, because there's no rasa in the Brahmajyoti. There's only the experience of sat, or eternal existence. So their duties, whatever they may be, even if they're not very dutiful, whatever we're doing in this age, even if it's not based on the varnashram structure, still we should not perform them for material gain. One who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, that means one who is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. As a warning to devotees, in the course of our service, course of our lives, Krishna may provide through different means various material facilities, but they should never be utilized for sense gratification. They should be understood to be back late last night from a Harinam Sankirtan, with blissful Harinam Sankirtan yesterday, with 10 volunteers from woofers, they're called sometimes, came with us on the Sankirtan, and they were dancing. I've never seen such a nice group of volunteers here. They were dancing from beginning to end in the Kirtan. Several of them jumped into district books as well. Very ecstatic Harinam yesterday. Tours, almost 3.5 hours of dancing and chanting. Many books going out. So we shouldn't use these gains, if we want to call it like that, for material sense gratification. This is the lesson here, that if so happens that in our course of our duty material gains come, although we don't perform our duty for material gain particularly, but if some other Krishna provides, we should not use that for sense gratification. We should learn how to use that for the gratification of Krishna's senses. Rishikena Rishikesha, to say in a way that Krishna will be pleased. So the scriptures are there, and the penultimate scriptures of Srimad Bhagavatam, they're all there to guide human beings in their spiritual path, or in the beginning it may be sort of a pious religious path, but at least guiding us in the direction of back to Godhead. That's the purpose of religious scriptures, not to attain Brahmajyoti or heavenly planets or karmic freedom from karmic reactions, byproducts, but the real purpose of it all is to reconnect us with Krishna. So we'll read the purport, please. We have already discussed that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment from material existence, because in pure devotional service, everything is necessary that's required is there, is contained within the process of pure devotional service. All realization is given by the Lord, not just that which we could say we encompass in the course of our service, but the Lord within the heart gives all necessary knowledge. We're talking about pure devotional service. Otherwise, he also gives one necessary knowledge, but it may not be on such an elevated platform. Maybe knowledge to make step-by-step progress, like a child learning ABCs. And detachment, because the more we become attached to Krishna, is not a question of rejection of the material, it's a question of acceptance of the spiritual, accepting Krishna, presence in everything. In this we read this morning, when one sees, the devotee should see Krishna in everything. So Bhagavad Gita states this. And actually everything is Krishna. In reality, nothing exists other than Krishna. his various forms, you could say, of his expansions and various energies, but ultimately it's all Krishna's. And he has his impersonal aspect and he has his personal aspect. The personal aspect can have a rasa with the impersonal Brahman, exactly. You could say a very, the epitome of the completeness of neutrality, maybe, but it's not a relationship with the personality of Godhead in his personal form. It's just an eternal existence in the Brahma Jyoti, which has no relationship, no rasa. Rasa means relationship. It means a mellow taste, sweet taste. Rasa means sweet. The sweet taste of mellow relationships. We try for it in this world, but it always frustrates because time ends everything. And even if without time, there's always problems. No end of problems. So that relationship with Krishna is developed by following the instructions given in Shastra, accepting the Lord's direction, and particularly in the Bhagavatam. And here we see very clear directions given by Sutta Goswami, how we should perform our duty in terms of what do we do with the fruits of the work. Same basic principle is given in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter and the first verse, where the Lord says, "The one has a right to perform one's duty, one is not entitled to the fruits of one's work." One who does his duty without attachment is the real sannyasi, the real renouncer, not one who doesn't do anything, but one who acts without attachment, because the attachment is to Krishna. The attachment is to Krishna. So that is bhakti. Bhakti is to attach everything to Krishna, whatever it may be. But there are others who consider that all kinds of different occupational engagements, including those of religion, are meant for material gain. And I guess the majority of people in the world are in that category. Why do people work? Why do we do so many things in life? Why do we go to church or to the temple? In many cases, it's for material gain. There are exceptions everywhere. The general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. Even in the Vedic literatures, for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered. You often see this, that by doing this you get freed of karma, by doing this you go to heaven, by doing this you get money, good job, good wife, good husband, whatever it is. Many temptations are there. They're a little bit like worms on hooks, A fisherman, I hope none of you are fishermen of this kind, puts the worm on the hook into the water, and naturally the fish is attracted to the worm, but he gets caught. It's caught by the hook. Of course, it's not as, in this case, if one's following religious principles, actually following, it's not a bad idea. And that we get hooked, because it will gradually guide us out of out of this material world, but it just takes a long time. That's all. Why are so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill desires, which in turn satisfy sense gratification. Wow, that sounds good. Huh? If we can get some material gain, some wealth, some position, some nice facilities, then I can enjoy and we can be happy. Yes. So I will work hard and then I can get money so I can fulfill all of my desires. Sense gratification is the general way for all sorts of fully occupied men. But in the statement of Sutta Goswami, as per the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is nullified by the present shloka. And it's at the end of the purport. Maybe it is. No, it's not. One should not engage himself in any sort of occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be utilized for sense gratification. How gain should be utilized is described as follows. Exciting. Now we have to wait and find out how it should be utilized. We heard how it should not. So we have the negative. Now, what is the positive? We did mention earlier, of course. But here Sadhu starts off. Generally, we start off with what's called a tatasta, the secondary symptoms or secondary characteristics, then before going on to the the actual intrinsic characteristics, purposes, or whatever it is. We have here, no, don't engage material gain in sense gratification. We should not engage, don't engage in any sort of occupational service only for material gain. Don't do it. And if you do get material gain, don't use it for sense gratification. So this is like the negative, as we see in Yavilasatashra. Jnana Kramajanavartum. These are the Tatasta Lakshana, the famous verse, Nectar of Devotion. The secondary characteristics, the primary ones, Anukulyena Krishnanushilnam, that we should engage in favorable devotional service to Krishna. So if we turn this the way around, one should not engage himself. One should engage himself in occupational service for selflessly offering it to Krishna. And material gain should not be utilized for sense gratification, but utilized for the pleasure of Krishna. That should be our goal in life. So yes, this is the underlying, we could say, underlying problems which are occupying everyone's attention right now. The underlying problem behind it is this not understanding the goal of life. We are still thinking that we are the enjoyers, we are the proprietors. This is, we're afraid, there's fear, so much fear there. That's whatever the opposition may be, whatever the problem may be, we're afraid and we try to get rid of it, and we try to protect ourselves from it. We haven't taken shelter of Krishna. Devotional service also means taking shelter of Krishna. He's our only shelter. Who else can protect us? Can the guns protect us? Now we are having this, well, very, you could say, very unfortunate in many ways. We can't change the Lord's hand involved there. Very surprising in many cases, but suddenly there's a war of some kind breaking out on the borders of Europe, and many people are, being sent to the battlefield because of the whatever the war, whatever it is, but the motivations of leaders, good or bad, from the material perspective, by certain motivations due to economics or politics or fear, social protection, whatever they want to justify these things with. And the result is that many people will have to lose their lives. Families will be broken. Great fear of Arjuna before the Battle of Kurukshetra. Religious principles will be lost. They've already basically been lost, and that was one of the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya, and that will be answered in this second chapter also, the third chapter particularly. But to whom religious principles have gone, where will we find genuine religion? Well, in this age of Kali, genuine religiosity is, present in the form of the Sankirtan movement. Declared Harinam. Sankirtan is the Dharma for Kali Yuga, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the scripture for Kali Yuga and all yugas, but in this age, other scriptures, as we see in the fourth, fifth, sixth chapter of this volume, how Narada Muni was so, chastising. He chastised his own Srila Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva, learned scholar who's compiled all the Puranas and all the Vedas, Mahabharata, and so many other scriptures, Vedanta Sutra. But still he's not satisfied. because the real essence of the Vedas, the purpose behind everything, is to know Krishna, to understand Krishna. So Narada Muni chastised him. You're misleading people in the name of giving them religiosity. Religiosity is required, but if it's not aimed at the ultimate goal of life, it will mislead. It's cheating people. It's leading them in the wrong direction, leading them to heaven, leading them to liberation, leading them to some material, situation of some kind. That's not the purpose of religion. Religion is meant for the service of how to awaken our God consciousness, how to love Krishna, how to understand the truth, how to perform activities which will liberate us from this world and attach us to Krishna. But in many cases, that's not the case. So there's cheating. And therefore, Bhagavatam rejects these cheating process. Dharma puja kuta vatra paramona matsaranam satam. It doesn't. It's aimed at this ultimate truth, the ultimate goal of life. Rejects all of these lower goals of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These are the general pillars of most people's religiosity, some pious activity, religiosity, and by so performing, one gets maybe some economic gain. And what do we do with that economic gain? That's the question. What do we do with it? We can ask ourselves, what do we do with it? Do we use it for our sense gratification, or do we use it for Krishna? The Bhagavatam recommends we have to learn to use it for Krishna. Otherwise, we become entangled. That very gain, which we're so excited, is the cause of our suffering. Unless we use it in Krishna's service, the art of bhakti, of devotion, service. And then, of course, when one becomes frustrated with sense gratification, maybe the person's turned towards trying to get liberated. Let's annihilate everything. Everything's just so painful, cause of distress. Just get rid of everything. That's not the solution. How can you get rid of? We were reading yesterday, Sanatana Goswami, Acharya. He's the Acharya for all devotees, at least in the Sambandha Gyan, giving us a connection with Krishna, basic knowledge of Krishna consciousness, which must serve as a foundation to our spiritual lives, is the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, deity worship song. Mercy of Sanatana, we can engage in various activities right there. So Sanatana Goswami, he went to Vrindavan. When he got to Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya was already left Vrindavan. And so then he heard Lord Chaitanya had gone to Puri. So he headed off to Puri. And there in Puri, because he already knew Lord Chaitanya left. When he got to Puri, on the way to Puri, Sanatana Goswami had basically been fasting most of the time. He was alone, traveling through the jungles, the forests, the mountains, and he wasn't able to get proper water, proper foodstuffs, and his body was covered in sores. It was oozing pus from his body. He got some infection, maybe from the water or somewhere, but he got infected. His body, nobody would go near him. His body was very infected. So he thought, aside from the infections, he thought, I'm so low anyway. Although born in a Brahmin family, I've accepted the position of, a servant of the Muslim king. I'm the lower, I'm a Chandala, I'm lower than the lowest. And he thought the best thing for such a wretched person as me is to go to Puri when the Rath Yatra festival begins. I will throw myself under the wheel of Jagannath and commit suicide. This was his plan when he arrived in Puri. He also thought, what's the point? Because I can't enter the temple of Jagannath because I'm low class, and Eve is not even good for me to exist here. But what happens if one of the priests touches me on the way to the temple? I would have committed a great offense. I'm the most fallen, lowly creature. He was thinking like that. So when he came there, he went to the house of Haridas, the kutir, Siddhabako of Haridas Thakur, and he stayed with Haridas because Haridas was also considered from a low caste. He was not allowed in the temple. He could have gone in, but he wouldn't because of his respect and his consider himself lowly and unqualified. So Sanatan went to stay with him. Lord Chaitanya came there, and he immediately embraced Sanatan Goswami, who was so disturbed. Why are you embracing me? My Lord, I'm so contaminated. I'm the most fallen wretch. My body is full of sores. Lord Chaitanya was ecstatic in embracing her, Sanatan Goswami, and didn't think at all about the oozing liquid coming out of the sores. Lord Chaitanya was in ecstasy in embracing his eternal associate and requesting him to stay there. Another day, Lord Chaitanya came and he said to Sanatan Goswami, he started to preach about, the fallacy of committing suicide, because Sanatan wanted to commit suicide and throwing himself in the wheel. This is not the business of a Vaishnava. If one thinks he can obtain love of Godhead by committing suicide, and willing to commit suicide over and over again, if one can, but that's not possible to commit suicide and expect to attain love of God. That's not the process. And Lord Chaitanya said to Sanatan, actually, your body belongs to me. How can you decide what to do with it? Your body belongs to me. I have many acts to perform through your body. That's another form. Frustration is another form of sense gratification. Suicide, these are all different forms of sense gratification. Lord Chaitanya said, this body belongs to me, not you. You can't do this. How can you do that? You cannot. Can't give up something which we don't have. We have no right to say that. And so he said, through your body, I will perform many activities. He explained some of those activities to Sanatan Goswami. So the same thing with everything around us. Nothing really belongs to us. Everything is meant for the service of the Lord. We have to learn how to do that. It's a wonderful thing. When things are engaged in the service of the Lord, then we can be, and there's a great relief. There's no more fear. Fear goes away. The influence of time is no longer a problem. It's there, but it doesn't bother one. Because one has given everything to Krishna. Otherwise, we're afraid of losing it. You haven't got anything to lose. It's like when Sanatan Goswami was traveling across the hills to Vrindavan initially, when he left his captivity and he came to that inn to stay for the night. And he didn't know at that time that Ishan, his servant, was carrying 8 gold coins with him. But the owner of the inn, he had an astrologer and somebody who could tell what was going on. And he told the innkeeper that this Sanatan has much wealth with him. You should kill him in the night and take all his wealth. The Sanatan Goswami was very clever. He could tell, expert psychologists, by the wonderful hospitality that this innkeeper was showing them. And he thought, something is not right here. Ishan, do you have something with you shouldn't have? Tell the truth now. But Ishan said, yes, my lord, I have 7 gold coins. He had 8 actually. I have 7 gold coins. And Sanatan Goswami said, give them to me right now. There will be a death knell. They were the cause of our death. When you've got something and we claim proprietorship over it, it's like a death knell. And we all know that. The other person may become greedy, even in the form of a country, what to speak, individual properties, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it is. Somebody becomes envious and you can have a death knell in your hands. Even a child sometimes, but Chitraketu, his son, was a death knell because all the other wives, only one wife had a child. All the others became super envious and plotted to kill the child. What a devastating blow. But that happens in every case. We become very attached to something, and if time doesn't take it away, someone else takes it away in time. or it just rots. Everything goes away, and then we become devastated. It's a death. It's hellish, you know. It's an unpleasant experience because we're attached to that which doesn't belong to us. It's a wonderful thing to be able to be free of that illusion. Then there's no more fear. Got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose at all. Everything belongs to Krishna. I know that we try to utilize it in his service the best we can for his pleasure. Take responsibility, but we got nothing to lose. The course of our duty, we got nothing to lose. Everything to gain. So Sanatana Goswami told Ishan to give him the coins. Sanatana then went to the innkeeper and gave the coins to the innkeeper. The innkeeper was in ecstasy. My dear sir, actually, I knew you had these gold coins, and this very night I was planning to kill you to take those coins. And he said that you're such a pious man. I will help you over the mountains to your destination. He was very inspired by Sanatana Goswami. But he said one thing that bewilders me is that I, from my understanding, your servant had 8 gold coins. And so then Sanatana, okay, went back to Ishan and said, Ishan, have you got any more coins? He said, oh, okay, just one more. And then Sanatana Goswami dismissed his servant. Go take this coin, go back home. And he proceeded alone. He said, this is a death now. I don't take this risk. When you've got nothing to lose, you've got nothing to fear. And this realization that we have nothing to lose, nothing at all. Although obviously we're not necessarily thinking like that, especially when it comes to family members, and maybe a little lesser degree to property, possessions, positions. We have a lot of attachments to so many things, very tied up, very implicated in this material world. How to cut that knot, as we heard the other day. Chindanti Kovidas, yes, Krona Kurikata. We cut that knot by remembering the personality of Godhead. So our life should be, if we want to become free of the knot of birth and death and karma and so on, then we have to realize that the process is it's only possible by the grace of Krishna. So we have to turn to Krishna. Turn to Krishna. Chant his names. Hear Srimad Bhagavatam and other related scriptures about the glories of the Lord. Prabhupada so much liked hearing the simple stories from Krishna book. It wasn't sophisticated philosophy in one sense. Simple stories from Krishna book. Lovely Krishna book. Chaitanya Charitamrita, the nectarine of my life, Prabhupada said when he crossed the great ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. My only solace is the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the nectarine of my life. And let us take shelter of these transcendental literatures, which are the panacea, the only solution, the only relief for those in this material world is to associate with Krishna in the form of the name, in the form of the Shastras. Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. The literary incarnation of Godhead. Let's take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hear the Bhagavatam regularly. The next few verses we'll be hearing about how the effects of hearing Bhagavatam, what they are. But here we're just trying to build up to that, performing our duties in the right methodology, the right consciousness. This will prepare us so that we can genuinely relish the Srimad Bhagavatam. Tarshupa Giyamana. And hearing it in this mood of genuine attachment to Krishna, detachment from this world, no more interest in, no more mentality of seeing this world as mine, consciousness of, I want to enjoy it. No, they will never understand the Bhagavatam with that mentality. Therefore, we don't understand it. It takes time. And even in the Bhagavatam itself, it says, who says, I can't remember, maybe Lord Kapila. No, not Lord Kapila. maybe Sukadeva Goswami Sutta, someone speaking, that I may understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadev, I think, may understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva may or may not understand Srimad Bhagavatam. He's a compiler of the scripture. In general, it's very not easy to understand Bhagavatam. One has to be pure in heart, and Matsaranam Satam, freed of envy, freed of lust, greed, anger, illusion, and madness. No longer seeing this world as, in relation to me, but seeing it in relation to Krishna. This is quite a rare thing, very, very rare. So we're fortunate to come into contact with such a personality of this character in Srila Prabhupada, who utilized everything and saw everything in relationship with Krishna, no matter what it was. He saw it as Krishna's energy. Even when the bombs were raining down in Calcutta, he stayed in Calcutta during the bombing, whoever it was that was bombing Calcutta in the Second World War. And he just saw this as another form of Krishna, a partial manifestation of the universal form of Krishna, the explosions and so on and so forth. Because ultimately, everything is destined to be destroyed, no matter what it is. That's the nature of this material world. And we become, it's very silly to be attached to somebody. It's like children on the beach. Sometimes you go to the beach and you see children playing in the sand, and they're trying to make a castle, and their hope is that the tide will protect them from the tide. The castle will be impenetrable by the tide. But as they say, time and tide wait for no man. In due course of time, the tide comes in and sweeps the castle away, and there's nothing but sand left. Everything turns to sand or dust. And that's the nature of our body. It just turns into dust, stool, or ashes. Nothing stays in this world. Everything is wound up in due course of time. So we get very wound up about things in this world, and then everything gets wound up. So better we get wound up about hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, even if we don't understand it, even if we're not so qualified. By the mercy of the pure devotee, we become eligible to access Srimad Bhagavatam, eligible to chant the holy name of Krishna purely by following the directions of the pure devotee of the Lord. So that's Hare Krishna. I think we have a busy day today. I think I have to get along with devotional services today. So I'd like to ask if there's any questions from anyone in our esteemed audience today in the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam or devotional service. We're starting a marathon in a few days, trying to distribute the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. We're going to try to distribute about 1,200 copies of this book in those 2 weeks. Maybe we haven't got any more, so, and other books too. Nobody in the world hardly knows about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a great opportunity to inform others about Lord Chaitanya. He's a golden avatar who's come to distribute love of God freely in the performance of the Sankirtan Yajna. So any questions, please? Comments? As I mentioned yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, but we should be mindful of the pains and the fears and the sufferings. I mean, it's hard to fully understand or experience what many people will be feeling in Ukraine. Many Russians also equally worried about the situation there, that people are suffering. A lot of people are suffering fear, not by their own choice exactly, maybe by their own karma, but nonetheless, it's something which is like, not something we wish of anyone. And many devotees there, I don't know how many devotees there are in Ukraine, but there are maybe 10,000 serious practicing devotees in Ukraine. It's a very, let's say, been a very successful preaching there in Ukraine. Many Ukrainians have taken up devotional service. Very large temple in Kiev, and Harinam party is going out in Kharkov. They were going out about every week. There was about over 100 kirtan parties going out every week at one point of time. Different groups going out in different directions. Very, very much. One may say, why is this happening in a place where so much devotees are there? And we could look at that in different ways. We could talk, if it's a question we can answer. I'm not going to go into an answer now. Or we can try to answer it. The Lord's hand works in mysterious ways sometimes to strengthen our devotional service. So are there any questions? Has something come on the screen now? Let's see what it says. How can my grubby, what is this? Oh, how can I get my grubby mitts? This is English slang. How can I get my hands on a box of books for Gaur Purnima? How can you get their hands on a box of books for Gaur Purnima? Mantra Prabhu was asking, I think, from UK. Is that right, Mantra? Are you in UK? If you're in France, you don't, I could get it to you, no problem. I'm not able to send, I don't know, a French teachings of Lord Chaitanya would not be very easy to distribute in England. They're not easy to distribute in France, what to speak of England. Yeah, so if you send me a private message, Das, okay. So this is not Mahamantra, this is Das. Well, give me your phone number. Maybe this Das lives in Meru. Are you living in Meru? And maybe he'll answer me in a minute. Anyway, you just send me a message and we'll get you a box of books, no problem. Just contact me personally. Anyone else who wants a box of French books, let me know. And wherever you are, it's a great opportunity to Baba says that these, just like they're dropping bombs or rockets or whatever it is on some of the cities in Ukraine right now. Horrible experience. We pray for all the devotees there, and also that people there may become awakened in their Krishna consciousness is the prayer of Vaishnava. Please, Lord, may they become free of the envy which is behind all this unnecessary cruelty and violence that we inflict on each other. It's just ignorance, total gross ignorance. The Vaishnava is always mindful of the poor innocents. No one's really innocent, but we look at it like that, when the citizens exposed to these horrors of, and this is only one of the many horrors that we're exposed to in this world. One of the most profound and most, you could say, clear horrors. Nobody wants war. I read that poem the other day, I'm sure some of you heard it, of George Bernard Shaw. Nobody wants war, but we cause it, and we don't know how to stop it. It's processes to change our consciousness, not change the government, not change laws and this and that. That's going to go on. That doesn't solve it. Krishna consciousness solves it. So here's something else. Let me see. Thank you for, I didn't say anything much. Today's verse refers to all occupational engagements. Is it referring to the four varnas of society? How can we be engaged in work and not accept material gains? Thank you. Okay, this is, and Kali Yuga, whatever we're doing. We try to do the best we can, and we try to act according to our natural proclivity as much as we can, but it's not always possible. Money has become the most important factor in this age. It's the main driving force in society, practically. So how can we, yes, any activity you can do can be used in Krishna service, at least the fruits of the activity can. So what it means is that we don't exactly, the ultimate goal of our work is not material gain. The ultimate goal of our work is God consciousness. However, in the course of it, we do have duties. For instance, we have family responsibilities, we have other bills, many bills to pay nowadays. So obviously there's an element there of material gain, you could say, that we want. But that shouldn't be our desire. It's not that we don't aim at material gain, but our life's desires are not aimed at that. We're not engaged. They're not. We know that they're not ultimately. They're not meant for sense gratification. Ultimately, they're meant for the service of the Lord. But we do need money in order to exist. In most cases, we could say, "Well, God will protect me," and so on. Okay. But in the practical terminology or practical situation, generally money is required to achieve even basic needs of society. But that's not our ultimate goal. It's just a byproduct, secondary goal, necessity. It's not, but if our goal in life is just make money, enjoy, that's different. That's not our goal of life. Goal of life is to be part of our duty is to maintain our family. Part of our duty is to sustain those who are dependents on us. And then you can see what the duties of grihastas are, whatever grihasta or whatever ashram. I mean, you can see the duties there in Shastra also. And we should perform those duties in normal situations. And the second part of that question, how can we be engaged in work and not accept material gain? Yes, you can, no problem. But we accept it on behalf of Krishna. We utilize it to sustain or maintain our families to whatever degree is possible or required. The balance we try to use in Krishna's service, and that applies to everything, time or whatever it may be. Okay, the next one. Please accept how to be always focused on our goal, how to be always enthusiastic. Ooh, the ongoing, the never-ending, you could say, hankering of a devotee. Well, the lolium, this hankering is the price of our Krishna consciousness. So if we really want to, it's not just some kind of, what we say in English, using MM's terminology, their Mahamantra's terminology, we could say it would be a cop-out. Yeah. Yes, but it should be sincere, not just some kind of, let's say, just help me, or just, I want to be focused on the goal. I want to be always enthusiastic, but we don't really quite understand the implications of what that means. Always focused on the goal. Well, first of all, of course, we know the goal is to love God, to awaken, to develop pure love of Godhead. But do we really want that? And do we know what that means? What are the implications, meaning there, love of God? Or do we still want love of ourselves? Do we still want love of our family? Do we still want love of this and that? Of course, that will be there. It's natural in the stage of growth, and even the stage of pure devotional service. That love is also expressed, seeing them as parts and parcels of Krishna. One loves to engage them in Krishna's service. One loves to assist them in that way, serve them in that way. But we need not be on that elevated platform quite yet. So how to come to that platform? Enthusiasm also may be based upon results. It may be based upon recognition. It may be based upon feeling good. Real enthusiasm is not something which is based upon, let's say, the results or how I feel. But enthusiasm is the nature of the soul in realized state, understanding that my existence is to please Krishna no matter what, or go to heaven or hell. If he breaks me and crushes me in his embrace or not, it doesn't matter. I will never stop trying to bring him pleasure. And that type of enthusiasm may not quite be a present situation, but to a certain extent in devotion, so we will continue, just like the devotees in Ukraine have said, we will, the devotees, generally speaking, they say, we will continue to chant and glorify Krishna no matter what. In fact, the war or the threat is there is increasing their determination to associate with each other, to chant and hear with each other, to glorify Krishna, not asking, please protect us from the bombs. That's not what they're asking. please protect our devotion towards you, my Lord, that we never give up our service towards you, no matter what else happens. This is a secret. We're not here to protect ourselves from bombs or diseases or other kinds of sufferings that come our way. We're here to cultivate, protect, cultivate our devotional creepers. That's the real protection which Krishna is offering. And the devotees, from what I heard yesterday anyway, that's the mood they're taking on. They're really taking shelter of Krishna. Do as with the famous verse which was quoted the other day, Tapeno Kampam Susamikshamanam Punjane Vatmakitavipakam. And they're just taking shelter of the Lord. They're not thinking, oh, save. That's also good. It's also pious. Going to church, please save us from the enemy, or something like that, you know. Please protect us from the bombs. Pious people will pray like that, and we wish all the best. But it's not always, it's not always meant to be like that. There are other factors involved, especially if the other party is also praying. Prabhupada said that about the Second World War. He said the German ladies were praying, the British ladies were praying. They were praying for the same thing, dilemma. Prabhupada said, dilemma. Poor God, what can he do? Because Krishna can do anything. He can wind it all up. He can stop anything he likes. But karma, lessons to learn. People are becoming, it may be a painful way to look at it. We don't preach this necessarily in public, in situations like this, of course. But karma is being burned up by certain people in this situation. Others are incurring karma. This is very complicated. Karma is very complex. But karma is certainly the major player in this particular situation. The other player is that all these events that are going on, particularly at this time, so many negativities, can have a very positive effect for people. It can do. Again, it goes back to the individual's person's desire. But it can be a springboard for people to look elsewhere for solutions to life, to turn to maybe there is something beyond this material world. What is this spiritual life? I want to find out if there's something deeper than just this material life which I'm, living. Is there anything deeper? Many people there will open up their hearts a little bit to look to the spiritual. At least that's our prayer and hope, that people will at least waken up. Whether the war goes on or doesn't go on, there's always a war inside. So let's hope people can wake up a little bit and search for the genuine answers, not just some temporary answers. They want more bombs, more anti-aircraft missiles, and they want more this and more of that. But that's not the solution either. Solution is within our hearts. We need Krishna consciousness. The world needs Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it's just one after the next. Now it's Ukraine, it'll be something else later on. And continually going on, some other problem. Next one. How to stay enthusiastic. Oh, you didn't quite get to it. The process of staying enthusiastic is to associate with enthusiasm. So those who are enthusiastic, we don't have us pray for it. Pray for it. Be enthusiastic. If you want enthusiasm, be enthusiastic to get enthusiasm. So pray for it, hanker for that opportunity to do it, but genuine enthusiasm, not just conditional passion. Acting, endeavor with intelligence means connected to Krishna, and that is a permanent state, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes it. Whether you put me in heaven or hell, whatever you do to me, your instruction, is my life and soul. I will never give it up. It's what we live for. Prabhupada's enthusiasm to spread Krishna consciousness was just impenetrable. It was, it had no pure, complete, nothing else on his agenda, just how to serve my Guru's instruction and spread Krishna consciousness in English. question was missed. I don't know where. Let me see if I can find it. 838. Yeah, from Martin. Here we go. I would love to express gratitude to hear nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sending greetings from Manor. Hey, you're in the Manor. What is the difference between frustration? Sending greetings from Manor. What is the difference between frustration? You mentioned that can be a sense gratification. Frustration that leads to spiritual growth. Yes, it's connected. How can one cultivate such feeling? Everything can be connected. We sometimes forget what the connection is and go in a different direction. You're welcome. So what's the difference? Well, one is frustration over not achieving one's material objectives. And that is considered to not be very spiritually good. Of course, if that leads us to take to the spiritual path, that can also be favorable. But in general, that frustration over material, over failing to achieve one's material objectives in life, that, can we close the door? No. That frustration is just further entangling us and often leads to anger, it leads to depression, it leads to suicide sometimes violence towards others. All kinds of negativities come because the objective goal is sense gratification. And the other part of this, frustration, that can be sensitive. Frustration leads to spiritual. If it leads to spiritual growth, if we become sick and tired of this endeavor in the material world to try to achieve material objectives, and we realize this is crazy, I'm just suffering as a result of this, and we look to spiritual life, then okay, that's a different thing. And there may be a frustration in spiritual life, which can also have both sides. It can take us forward or backwards. We're frustrated because of our not getting our recognition or not getting our service we want or not getting the results we want. Sometimes we give up. There's another type of frustration, we could say, in spiritual life where we see ourselves far short of the mark and we're just hankering to advance in spiritual life. I'm so full and so, oh, how long is this nonsense? Desires are going on in my heart. And then we cry to Krishna. We turn to Krishna. One turns to their, mind. You could say, well, the other's mind turns the wrong direction, and one turns towards Krishna in frustration, knowing I have no way of satisfying or achieving my goals without the mercy of Krishna. We sometimes think with the mentality, I am the doer. And we may have some material assets, we may have some material qualities, and we think that I am the doer. We may not consciously think like that, but we're acting like that. And we're proud. There's an element of pride there because we have some material capacity, material abilities, etc. And we base our, movements based upon that, basically speaking. And then when things don't go well, we often become frustrated, start complaining, criticizing, going away, finding some excuse, and so on and so forth. And even worse, sometimes we really get bad. Because because our motivation is mixed, or even worse than mixed. Sometimes it's far from Krishna conscious. But if our motivation is actually Krishna conscious, more and more it becomes Krishna conscious, we may be frustrated with our inability to bring pleasure to Krishna. That can be a spur to taking shelter more, serving the Vaishnavas more, begging for mercy and so on. Or if that frustration brings us to realize that I've got the wrong attitude. I better change this. And then we'll inquire what to do about this. Then it can be favorable. So either the materialist, who because of frustration eventually realizes this is madness. This is all madness to try to enjoy this material world, I give up. Of course, without any alternative, that at best will lead to Brahmajyoti, at worst it leads to just total depression, madness, and maybe suicide. And on the spiritual path, hopefully that frustration will be a good one, and it will lead us to actually take shelter of the Vaishnavas, ask what is the real process of pure devotional service. So where are we now? Now we have one Haridas, Haribol. I guess you're in Hong Kong. Sometimes I'm trying to serve the mission, or sometimes in trying to be strict in our spiritual practice, we tend to neglect our duty and responsibility to our husband, wife. Can you comment on this? Wow. Yes, we had no end of experiences of this in our own life, in the lives of others, and no doubt about that. It hopefully is not with ill intent. Hopefully it's with a, a kind of ignorance in the sense of understanding what one's duties are. And we do sometimes carry away with our managerial responsibilities or our preaching responsibilities, not only to our family, we seem to ignore our duties to ourselves in terms of our own health, in terms of our own spiritual nourishment. To get that balance is the art in spiritual life. To get the balance, the responsibility to one's family, which we've taken as our responsibility, to guide them, to protect them, to nourish them. And that isn't a deviation from Krishna consciousness if the center point of that is Krishna conscious. We have to, obviously, there's many activities which from a material point of view may appear to be simply material activity, but they're not. They're all in relationship with helping to nourish others or attract others to Krishna. The children, especially, if we ignore them, they'll ignore us. And no matter what you say, they won't listen to it. Even if it's truth, as far as Krishna consciousness goes, it would be, for them, it would be a cause of suffering because they were ignored at the stage when they needed attention, when they needed care and love. So it's a delicate balance, and we should take advice from those who have genuine knowledge, experience in this regard as to how to balance their lives more so we don't become fanatics, going totally one way or totally the other. And that sometimes happens out of frustration because of not having a balance in the beginning or as soon as we can in those regards. And sometimes in emergency, everybody even in the world has to, go one way or the other a little bit more than usual. But in general, it's the art of balance there. You see, your children are Krishna's. Krishna sent them to us to serve them. Our wife is sent by Krishna for us to serve. Now, serving is a different thing for different persons. It doesn't mean the same for every individual. We serve different people according to their position. That's a detail, which again, we may know already in general, but you can always take good advice how to, help to be more successful in that regards. It's important to bear that in mind. Otherwise, in the long run, we'll regret, the children will regret, the wife will regret, separation comes along, children don't want to hear about us anymore. They go into the material world again. What type of duty have we performed? We failed in our duty, in fact. What is it? What is the benefit of our preaching when that happens? People look at us and say, look, what's happened? You're telling me this, and look what's happened to you. It doesn't look very good. And of course, sometimes things are almost unavoidable. But we should certainly be aware to try to make every effort we can to see that that doesn't happen. That we are aware of our duty, and we do our best to perform our duty towards our family and towards others, etc. Anything else? I'm still trying to work out. For some reason, I don't know who, if M.M. Das can please gives me some information on this. I will happily, I thought it was Mahamantra. I have two Mahamantras, one in France, one in England. But I may be wrong there. M.M. Das, I don't know this. I never found out. Well, that's wonderful. So, Hare Krishna, I don't know. maybe one more. No. Oh, of course, his MM does. Yeah. Now, thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't think. There we go. I know where it is. I won't. Yes. Hare Krishna. Don't worry, old boy. We'll send you a box. Is what's this here? I don't know some sense. Yesterday I read a verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, very positive and inspiring. We read, we understand better, and our faith grows. More faith, more enthusiasm. Yes, very good association. The book Bhagavatam, the person Bhagavat by association. It's a nice verse. I'll read it. 6:3:18. The messengers of Vishnu, who are revered even by the Devas, have a marvelous physical appearance comparable to that of Vishnu, and they are rarely seen. The Vishnu Dutas protect the devotees of the Lord against their enemies, against natural disasters, and against any other danger they may encounter. And what did I miss something there? Oh, yeah, we jumped forward. We jumped forward into the purport there. I don't know what happened. The screen shot forward. I read it wrongly. The messengers of Vishnu, who are revered even by the Devas, have a marvelous physical appearance comparable to that of Vishnu, and they are rarely seen. The Vishnu Dutas protect the devotees of the Lord from their enemies and envious beings, from natural disasters, and even from me. Yeah, it means Yamaraj. Content. Yamaraj describes the qualities of the Vishnu Dutas with the specific aim of convincing his own servants that they should not envy them. He warns them that the Vishnu Dutas receive veneration and homage from the Devas, and that they are always ready to protect the devotees of the Lord against their enemies, against natural disasters, and against any other danger they may encounter. Yeah, well, that the Lord has various purposes when he protects the devotees in different ways. The devotee in the heart of hearts, he's not worried whatever you want to do, but the Lord has different purposes at different times. It appears that more emphasis is placed upon the external protection in some other situations, more on the internal. And in some cases, for various motivational reasons, it may not appear necessarily either. But the Lord knows their motivation. And if he sees a sincere devotee, he will protect him according to the need. And the need is not necessarily an external one. In many cases, the devotee may be ready to go back to Godhead. Or his material situation is so rotten that the Lord may, release him from that situation in one swipe. So there are different situations there. The devotee has to teach a lesson. You could say, in the case of Jesus, Haridas, why the Lord didn't protect, but he did protect. He did protect, but in a way which may not be very easy for materialistic people to realize or to understand. Then in other cases, he may directly protect, like with Prahlad Maharaj. He did with Haridas too, of course. But the Lord's protection will not always be fully understood. The internal protection is the much greater protection that the Lord wants to give. His interest is to protect his devotees, no doubt, like he did with Jagai and Madai. Janananda, when he was attacked by Madai, Lord came immediately with his chakra. The specific situations have a different form of protection. Somebody else is here with another verse. Induleka, the previous one. Also Induleka. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 9:24-59. Although the Asuras, this is a famous verse. Although the Asuras who seize power give themselves the guise of rulers, they ignore the duties of government each other. Thus, towards the government, each other, something missing there, that reducing the heavy burden that weighs down the earth. The Asuras increase their military power by the will of the Supreme Lord, so that their numbers decreases and the bhaktas can rise in Krishna consciousness. Well, that's a summary of the verse and purport, more or less. The point mentioned by Sukadeva Goswami and Sri Prabhupada in that verse and purport is for the building of so many different unnecessary, like when Lord Krishna appeared, the earth also was appealing to the demigods to please relieve her. So many kings on this planet are building up their military, this verse refers to that occasion, in fact, building up their military resources in such an exploitative way as disturbing the earth, which we see at the present moment. So intermittently wars are fought of different kinds, and many people perish for better or for worse in these wars. But Prabhupada's point here is that this is allowed by the will of the Lord at certain points of time. It's part of the karmic process where people's lives are drawing to an end for whatever karmic reasons are there. And this is a methodology which is unfortunate in one sense, but unavoidable in another, especially in Kali Yuga, that a war will be fought and reducing the numbers of the personnel, be they what they may, and each person may get a different destination in terms of a mundane war, because some may be very pious, devotional, they're just doing what they think is their duty, and others may be very envious and angry, so they get different results. They're not dying in front of Krishna on the Kurukshetra battle like that. But these things will go on, and they will fight against each other, and as Prabhupada says here, they will reduce the population and of demoniac persons, enabling the devotees to practice Krishna consciousness without so much disturbance. And if we don't change, Prabhupada said, if we don't preach sufficiently to change the consciousness, then wars will be inevitable to prepare the way for the golden age of Krishna consciousness, which is just about starting. Padarenu, Haribo, expert in solar panels. Can you please guide what is meant by taking shelter of Vaishnavas, or what is meant by begging for mercy? Is it asking for more service so that I can be more and more purified? Yeah, well, it will be different things again at different stages of our growth in spiritual life. Taking shelter of the Vaishnavas means taking shelter of their instruction, of their association, of their chastisement, whatever form it may come in. Associate with devotees, take advice, take guidance from devotees. Reveal one's mind to devotees, or learn how to do that properly, by the way, not just anyone and everyone. It's a way of revealing one's mind in different situations, serving the devotees, how I can please the Vaishnavas, and begging for their mercy. Well, yes, it's one aspect of it is begging for service. That's a form of mercy. Prabhupada said one time that my mercy is my instruction. So begging for instruction and devotional service, begging for service itself, and also literally praying, please, shower your mercy on me, whatever form it takes, but please be merciful to me that I may progress in spiritual life, that I may become more sincere in my service to my Guru Maharaj, that I may become more serious about the service to the holy name or to spreading Krishna consciousness or whatever it is. We can pray to the Vaishnavas. They're always there. They're there to help us. Only by their mercy and the mercy of Krishna. Beyond that, that's the only way we can make any progress. Depends on mercy. Mercy is there in different forms. Let's take it. Thank you, Padarenu. Okay, Prabhu says, I think that's everything. I think we've at least talked about it. We haven't covered everything. So we wish you. So Mahamantra Prabhu, if you want a box of these Chaitanya Charitamritas, what do you want me to do? Let me know. I can send it down to you. Or we can, I don't know of any other method right now. I think that's the only one. Just let me know. Hare Krishna. Jai, everybody. We'll have a little kirtan and finish up there. Da-da. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Premanandi, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the Vaishnavas. All those who are serving in the Vaishnavas, all glories to all of you. Thank you for being with us today. Please try to take advantage of Prabhupada's mercy in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam and the mission which he showered on the world. And whatever comes our way, all the difficulties that come, all the doubts, all the challenges, sometimes confusions, why this is happening to me. If we just take shelter of the holy name in Srimad Bhagavatam, everything will become clarified in our hearts. Don't worry. All these things are just clouds temporarily passing in the sky, but keep the sun in the in our forefront. The sun will eventually, it's like Dhruva Maharaj was overwhelmed by myriads of bewildering attacks by the yakshas, but he eventually just put Krishna in the center and cut his way. Everything just disappeared. We keep Krishna in the center. Remember Lord Chaitanya, and all these doubts and difficulties will just dissipate. No longer would you be ever recharged enthusiasm to push forward Krishna consciousness, no matter what happens. Depend on the holy name, depend on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and try to serve the Vaishnavas. We wish you all the best, everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your association. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ishwar Puri, Tirobha Mahotsav ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.